I'm going to go into it's a pretty short list of moonshot predictions, and I'll go through these kind of fast because I know we've been recording for a while. First one is there will be an advertisement, like there will be an actual genuine attempt to market your concept as a fully human restaurant experience, and they will charge accordingly in 2026. And when I say this, this is like me saying this early because I kind of have brought this up before, but I'm just trying to map out the direction of progress in thinking through how humanoid robots make their way into hospitality experiences. I went to a conveyor belt sushi place the other day. My son was like totally enamored about the fact that there was like a robot that was carting himself around the restaurant delivering drinks to people. And I think that, like that is like a very crude example of, like one singular task that
The
this robot
fact
does.
the fact that you said the robot was carting himself around the restaurant,
Yeah,
not it. So
totally.
they've already got you, Justin.
Yeah, exactly. I just think that there will be a point where people are like so fed up with social media, so fed up with the internet, so fed up with robots. They're surrounded by them in their homes. They're in their workplaces. They're on the trains with them. That there is going to be a fully human restaurant experience that people will advertise, and they will be able to charge accordingly. That's, I think, is going to be the interesting thing where everybody's talking about costs going down, 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 down for all of these restaurant experiences. And to have a fully human one is going to be really expensive, and it's going to be a status symbol. That's an interesting thing that I'm thinking about.
I like that. I haven't thought of that, but I like that, and I totally see it happening.
Next one that is like, again, directionally maybe correct, but after things that you've sent me and things that I've anecdotally experienced, at least in the city that I live in, Michelin completes the US as a guide is my moonshot prediction for 2026. And I think the reason behind, maybe this happening in 2026 is we've talked about in 2025, so many areas regionally have been added to the guide. We've also talked about pushback financially from certain jurisdictions and geographies where they're saying, I don't want to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for this. I'd pushed back and said that the ROI on that spend, I think it's going to be there. I think we've seen examples of it being there, but I think that industry pushback, so chefs and sommeliers and producers and real estate people are going to say, city, tourism board, WTF, like, why can we not have a Michelin guide? Why will you not spend this?
Happening in Buffalo right now.
Totally. And so then, and also it's going to be increasingly obvious that the success of other markets seeing the Michelin guide come in, it's going to turn into this thing where it's like, dude, like, look at them. Like, look at what they were able to accomplish. Look at how the city has changed. Look at how these chefs are finding success and restaurants are thriving. Again, could be totally proven wrong here, but I hope that Michelin sets it on their roadmap. I'm sure they have some sort of internal way to track this, that they will put it on a big, like image and say, the Michelin guide is fully representing the entire United States. Maybe not including Alaska and Hawaii. I don't know. We'll have to see where that goes. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that I think it's happening. I think the only pushback to, I think they would have already had this if the tourism boards in a lot of cities, major cities, were willing to pay. And so it'll be interesting to see what the success of the new guides and the financial incentives of the new guides. It's not even a Michelin push; it's an adoption from each city's local tourism board on doing it. So, but I think it could happen. If not 2026, at latest 2027.
The year is 2015 or 2016. I can't quite remember. It is March, and it is very dark and dreary in Norway. And my executive chef comes to the whole team, and he says, hey, we're really slow right now. I want each of you to pick a place to go stage, and I want you to go work there for a week and then come back and teach us all what you learned there. One of my coworkers went to a butcher shop. Another coworker went to this place in France. I decided that I wanted to go to this restaurant in Stockholm that had 2 Michelin stars called Fransen. I went there and had an incredible staging experience. I got to meet some really cool people. I got to eat at Fransen. It was really, really incredible. And then all of a sudden, fast forward to 2025, 10 years later, Bjorn Fransen is the only chef in the world who has three Michelin starred restaurants. And I don't think people give him enough credit for it. And I think the reason is because he doesn't have a masterclass on Masterclass. He doesn't have a line of cookware that he's, flexing and have a juice drink and have a, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm specifically dunking on Thomas Keller here in kind of a joking way. I love Thomas Keller's commercial success that he's been able to achieve. But I think in 2026, people will get smart on Bjorn Fransen. He has restaurants in Dubai, Singapore, and Stockholm that all have 3 Michelin stars. He does not have a representation in the US yet, or Canada, or, South America, or insert, like this side of the world. But his success in fine dining, I think, is like incredible. It is to be studied. It is like super admirable. Obviously, he's gone through, like so many iterations of like having to renovate the place. He's gone through staffing changes. He's gone through so many things at that business and restaurant group. But I mean, like, people give Alain Ducasse and Gordon Ramsay and Thomas Keller the flowers, but Bjorn Franzen, like, objectively is like, arguably the best chef in the world right now. And I just think that I hope people get smart on him in 2020. And it might not happen, and that might totally be the thing that is like he continues to stay quote unquote under the radar because he doesn't want to be that commercial success in the way that some of these other chefs have turned themselves into.
Yeah, I mean, it's impressive what he's done, and he does fly under the radar. Maybe this goes viral on TikTok or YouTube, and he finally gets his due because of you. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy to have three Michelin star restaurants. It's insane, and yet he's doing it at a very high level and consistently and over a long period of time, which proves out his track record. So,
two more that kind of like piggyback off of this like success with Michelin. We have the Knife Edge show on Apple TV that documents a lot of restaurants. Basically, like, I just want 1 star. Like, I just want to open and I just want to find success with having 1 Michelin star, because the way that they position it in that show is that it is obviously really cool to get the award and all the benefits that come with that. But like, from a business perspective, that will make sure that this restaurant that I'm operating can continue to stay open. I want to advocate for almost like the opposite, not the opposite of that, but a different version of this, which is, I think in 2026, we will see a maniacal attempt at another achievement like this. This is bringing attention to a region. This is aiming to get 3 Michelin stars right out of the gate. We've obviously seen examples like Somni, who like on their first year being open, and I know that there's a little bit of like controversy there because they were open and then they closed and then they reopened in a different location. I think you kind of get what I'm saying when a real push, a real like, I don't care, we're going for this. This is going to be a really harsh environment. And I think that everybody kind of like swung the other way, bashing on Noma. I'm not saying I want to see this happen. I'm more saying like, everybody's seeing Knife Edge. Everybody's seeing the success from Michelin. Everybody's seeing, 3 Michelin stars be this thing that like certain restaurants are almost having to apologize for being harsh work environments. And I think as we get into a place where like that starts to become a little bit like people, it fizzles out. I think we might see a resurgence of like, holy shit, like this is a crazy work environment. And oh my God, you worked at XYZ place in 2026. Like, that must have been crazy. I think that will happen going forward. I also wanted to add that when we do see that attempt, it will have a more sustainable lens to it. And I don't know if you're familiar with this concept, Ray, but it's like you're going around the circle. So like, it's like the pendulum swinging, but it's like you kind of go around, but it's actually a 3D animation. So you're spiraling up. And it's this idea of like, it will have more sustainability to be maniacal about something like this, because it's going to be a chef plus type of leadership structure. So it's going to be a Will Gadara and a Daniel Hume type of situation. It's going to be a, like the chef and a incredibly talented som, or an incredibly talented, like farmer, or, insert thing. But I think, again, I just want to make it really clear. I'm not advocating for this maniacal thing. I just think that there's like, for whatever reason, people like being pushed. People like, like having that intensity. People, like there's a little bit of that I think there's a large enough cohort of people who will kind of like join along for something like this. But I think it will have more legs and sustainability because the economics will be better. The concept will be more dialed in, but it's going to be really hard because for whatever reason, like there's still space for that in the industry.
Oh.
Okay. I wrote down underutilized commercial real estate. So warehouses and offices will be turned into food depots, is what I'm calling them, that integrate with full self-driving cars. And so what I'm foreseeing if this comes to fruition, is what I'm calling commuter meals. And so like your car will pick up something for you on the way to picking you up because you have scheduled a pickup for you at 5 o'clock from work. And so on the way to coming to get you, it will stop at one of these food depots, get your favorite XYZ, your Ray's buffalo wings. And then when you get into the car, dinner will be ready for you. And then you can eat it on your 35-minute commute home. Very interesting concept that I don't think we've fully played out yet. And the second one, and I kind of got this idea off of your like sitting in line for 20 minutes waiting for a coffee with your friends. If you have an experience where every single person can be involved in the vehicle because the car is driving itself, is there a world where we could have a quote unquote road trip experience with food? And so all of us are used to stopping at the gas station and having the, you know what I mean? Like the packaged snacks and, soda that you're going to drink. Is there a world where along the roads you can stop and actually get like a really, really high quality meal and it just gets brought into the vehicle? The vehicle drives up and picks it up and it just keeps going because you don't have to stop because you can just like keep going on the road trip. And it's almost like that might plan out in an actual road trip, or it might be something where, Ray, you and I decide that we want to go into this road trip experience and we're going to drive along the coast for an hour, but there's going to be food and drink served to us in the vehicle, maybe with stops along the way. Just an interesting concept with full self-driving, and that we haven't calculated yet because everybody, at least one person has been needed to be in charge of driving along the way.
During the government shutdown, I actually had my flight offered to be canceled because it was unlikely it was going to take off. So I went on Amtrak, and I just sat there and I kind of went down a rabbit hole of the train rides. And there's a 52-hour like train ride from Chicago to California, and there's dining, but the dining wasn't that great. And I just sat there and like it would have been so cool. It would be so cool if we had the ability to have high speed rail or a high speed way of traveling, but also like stopping at each spot and trying food and trying the different locale. So like because we're such a car first country, then that might be actually the next step.
The next one I had that kind of is the moonshot in the moonshot section because I don't think it's exactly the same as chefs getting collaboration opportunities. I wrote down collaborations will be greater than new products for some of these like bigger brands, and brands will look to trade audiences rather than reinvent the wheel. And so what I mean by this is instead of saying like Chipotle needs to not do salads and bowls and burritos anymore, we need to create a new product. I think they're more likely to collaborate with, XYZ company and have a special burrito. And this kind of pushes back on your prediction that there won't be LTOs as much. I think that if they're going to add variety and novelty to the menu, it will take the form of a collaboration rather than, again, trying to create a new product. And the quote that I kind of come back to on this is Naval's, aphorism on this, which is great products look roughly the same because they got it right. And so that's something where it's like the form factor of a sandwich or a burrito is like so recognizable and good that reinventing the wheel does not have as much marginal, increase in the user experience. Like keep the burrito, add the regional sauce to it, and then that ends up and collaborate with another brand to share audience. That is going to be the way that people, ultimately find growth in 2026 because we ultimately still want to have those hedonic experiences. And again, that novelty. And so again, a little bit of a boring quote unquote moonshot, but I think that we aren't going to see as many new products in 2026.
Well, I like to say you had written here that it's like brands will look to trade audiences rather than reinvent the wheel. I like that idea.
Yep. Okay, next moonshot. We talk about meat prices. Ray talked about the chicken wing potential. I have an interesting idea of there was a company, there's so many. One was called Crowd Cow. And it was a company that basically every single person who wanted to order meat in large quantities at wholesale prices could order online. It was basically like a pre-order. And once the entire cow was purchased, everybody's order would go through and then you'd get your meat delivered. We're also seeing, again, these prices skyrocket. People going to the grocery stores are opting to either eat less meat or different cuts of meat. I can see, because people have been so accustomed to paying XYZ price on protein, whole animals could come into restaurants and the restaurant could be able to sell high quality protein as another revenue stream. Again, I don't know the semantics around this, if there's some sort of like license you need to have to do something like this. I know that there's so many things with like, if you're going to butcher or slaughter, you need to have, like the FDA come and check you out. But I think that all of this is priming for, like restaurants to have more novelty across their menu. It also, from a sustainability lens, makes them look like rock stars because it's obviously like, we're not just using the ribeye and, throwing everything else away. And then I think it's also from a trust perspective, exactly what you were talking about with you scan the QR code, you go into the restaurant, and now we increase the lifetime value of you as a customer. It's like, hey, you came in and you had this beautiful steak. We're actually taking the XYZ other cut from this, and we're actually able to package it up in this really nice butcher paper, and you can take this home if you want, and we'll package it for you in a really nice way. Maybe even not even after a meal. Maybe it's just like, hey, I really trust this restaurant. I love the way that they handle things, and this is the only place where I can get this beef, this pork, this lamb, and that's going to be something that I trust and actually like invest in. And then as the restaurant, like, oh my God, phenomenal revenue stream for you as a business. I just haven't seen anybody do that yet. I'm sure somebody in the comments will point to somebody who's already cracked this nut, but I just see it being something that like you regularly will think about doing in your week or monthly grocery shopping.
And because of prices and whatnot, also with whole animal butchery, you might have customers wanting to try different things even on a menu. So,
Well, even like I'm sure you've seen like some of the organ supplements, like that
Mhm.
in and of itself has gotten people more into like, I'm open to liver now. I'm open to different, awful cuts. And that is something that I'm, maybe a little bit more open-minded to, that if I'm going to get it from somewhere, I don't want to get it from, some place on the internet or a market that I'm not really so sure of. These guys served it to me in a way that was genuinely delicious. Can I get that same product? And the restaurant can also benefit from that because they just take the markup on it and they win.
Mhm.
The last one that I had is maybe like more of an incomplete thought, but it was this idea of like a mobile kitchen being something that maybe brands or high performing restaurants lean into. This is kind of coming off of my experience at Mad and seeing how the team at Noma was able to execute like so many different chefs' vision out of a tent on an island in basically a plot of grass. And so the ability for some of these restaurants to like be open at, I play a lot of pickleball, tennis, like the US Open in particular has become like a who's who for people to go to and experience food and drink. They charge like exorbitant prices for these things, but people just want to have a good time. They've already paid XYZ amount for their ticket. And the ability to, I had this idea, Ray, back when I was doing pop-ups to like, should I get a food truck and just do like multiple courses in, next to a beautiful mountain lake or something like that? And just set up a bunch of tables and like, that's a really cool dining experience. And so this idea of like mobile kitchens being something that like you can hire really, really great brands for. And again, those chefs being able to think on their feet and adapt and deliver a cool experience there, I think could be a super profitable venture for people going forward. Again, this is like maybe more on the event in real life person, because they're going to have so many ideas and they're going to be like so constrained by like XYZ venue. I think like the mobile kitchen idea, setting one up for your business and being able to say like, yeah, we can be there. We have the inventory for that. Instead of needing to say, no, we have to host at the restaurant. And then you say, oh, sorry, our restaurant can only seat 45 people. It's just going to totally change the dynamic for people. And I'm just excited to see what happens.
Be interesting to see if it happens. And yeah, I think it's a great idea to be able to just have that versatility show up, and you have a recipe set that's really geared towards that. I think that could be a win.
We went really long. Where were we wrong? Where were we right? Where do you agree, disagree? Please let us know in the comments. I hope everybody has a really, really phenomenal end to 2025, particularly if you're taking care of people on New Year's Eve. I know that those nights can be fun because if it's a set menu and things are going really, really smoothly, it can be a relatively straightforward evening, or it can be total chaos. Please let us know how things are going for you. And I wish all of you the best of luck going into the next year. Thanks to Ray for all the work that you do on this show. And I'm really, really excited to bring you folks more content in 2026.